Duncan Rogers, and this is my presentation on the theoretical foundations of instruction design. There are three main foundations. They are behaviorism, cognitive perspective, and constructivism. Behaviorism is a theory of animal and human learning. Basically, it discounts all mental activities, and learning is defined as nothing more than acquisition of new behavior. The classic conditioning occurs when a body responds to reflex or stimuli, such as Pavlov when using the dogs. He'd ring a bell whenever he'd feed the dog mouth would salivate, and by ringing the bell, the dog would eventually salivate even though there'd be no food. Behavioral or operant conditioning occurs when a stimulus is reinforced. If a reward or reinforcement follows the response to a stimulus, then the response becomes more probable in the future. The pros to using the behaviorism approach is that it is only observable behavior and can describe several laws or behavior. Positive and negative reinforcement techniques can be very effective, and it is also used by teachers. You can use it to reward or punish your students. So if the student sees that something is not accepted in your classroom, the other students will then pick up on that. However, there are many cons to behaviorism as well. It does not account for all kinds of learning since it disregards the activities of the mind, such as the example that Professor Dickey used with the ape receiving two sticks and having bananas just outside of its reach in the cage. It put the two together. So it obviously shows that there is some form of mental activity going on within the brain while that's going on. It also does not explain some learning, such as recognition of new languages patterns by young children. There is no reinforcement mechanism, and it does not go into what goes on in the mind and what cannot be seen. Also, research has shown that animals adapt their reinforced patterns to new information, such as a rat can shift its behavior to response to changes in the layout of a maze it had previously mastered. And again, things go on in the mind that cannot be measured in just behavior. The next approach is the cognitive perspective. What it is it tries to explain the hidden processes occurring inside the learner's brain. The learner is basically viewed, as Professor Dickey said, a computer, and they are processing information constantly. The information processing perspectives on learning still consider reinforcers important, and it also explains the role of reinforcers as providing feedback about whether engaging in a new behavior is a good idea or not. Some key concepts about the cognitive perspective. It tries to categorize knowledge and attempts to systemize instruction. Bloom's taxonomy is one way that this is done. There are three main domains, as you can see. The first being the cognitive domain, which is the intellectual abilities and skills such as knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, evaluation. The affective domain, which is feelings, values, appreciation, enthusiasms, motivations, and attitudes. And then the psychomotor domain, which is physical movement, coordination, and use of the motor skills. Now, on the right, I have developed a triangle basically of what is important according to Bloom's taxonomy. On the bottom we have knowledge. That is what the students need to know. And right above that is understanding. The students need to understand what you're teaching them, how to apply it, what they think about it, process the information, and then eventually finally analyze or evaluate the information. Now, there are four main types of knowledge. The declarative knowledge, which is facts, data, concepts, principles. Procedural knowledge, which is how to perform a task, action, or process. Strategic or conditional knowledge, which is knowledge of how to apply principles and experiences of various and new situations. And metacognitive knowledge, self-awareness of how one learns. The last approach is the constructivism. It is basically a philosophy of learning founded on the premise that by reflecting on our experiences, we construct our own understanding of the world we live in. Each of us generates our own rules and mental model, which we make sense of our own experiences. There are also different types of constructivists, such as the radical constructivists. They wanted to basically eliminate standardized curriculum and customize the curriculum based on what students had already learned. And it's hands-on problem solving, and they wanted to try to eliminate grades and standardized testing. Assessments became a part of the learning process so that students play a larger role in judging their own process. There are many pros to using the constructivist approach, such as there are no generic leader or standardized testing. Basically, the students will not feel pressured when going into a classroom or when midterms comes up. It recognizes the importance of prior knowledge and experiences, and they have the sense of themselves in the world and how to recognize that. Also, the learners play an active role in constructing the knowledge. Learning shouldn't be passive, they should always be learning and finding out something. The cons to the constructivist approach is that it's more difficult to design individualized instruction. With the students being the ones that basically design the curriculum, it is very hard if each individual student is trying to learn something different. Evaluation is more difficult, portfolio-based and informational rubrics, and also requires a shift in thinking about the role of teacher and student. Basically, the student will become the teacher, they'll be the ones that decide everything, and the teacher will play minimal role within the classroom.
And you're going to get it for me.
Shooting me won't get you anywhere.
You know something, Dr. Jones? You're absolutely right. Dad. Dad. No! Get back! You can't save him when you're dead. The healing power of the Grail is the only thing that can save your father now. It's time to ask yourself what you believe. Breath of God. The penitent man will pass. The penitent man will pass. Penitent man will pass. Penitent man. Only the penitent man will pass. Only the penitent man will pass. Penitent man will pass. Penitent man. Penitent man. The penitent man is humble before God. Penitent man. Is humble. Kneels before God. I'm through! We're through. It's all right. The second challenge is the Word of God. Only in the footsteps of God will he proceed. Word of God. Word. Proceed in the footsteps of the Word. Word. Oh, no, Henry. Try not to do it. The name of God. The name of
Now, I understand that a lot of you are probably wondering why you just watched a 5 minute clip on Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. However, I'm using that because of inquiry based learning. Inquiry based learning is where the students receive a question, create a hypothesis, then generate experiments which test their hypothesis, analyze the data that they have received, reach conclusions, and communicate the results. Through the video, Indiana Jones was posed with a question: where is the Holy Grail and how does he get to it? Through his hypothesis, he had that book that showed him different ways. Now, through his experimental design, when he was jumping on top of the different platforms, one, he had to spell out Yahweh. Now, as he thought about it, he jumped on the wrong one and then eventually realized that it was spelled a different way than he thought. So he analyzed his data and finally reached his conclusion. To communicate the results, he eventually found the Holy Grail, and that is inquiry-based learning. This is my presentation on theoretical foundations, and I hope you enjoyed.